Welcome back. I don't know if I've actually worn this jersey in a video before. This is the Montreal Canadiens. I got this one through. It's either Ice Jerseys or Cool Hockey. And it's a CCM reprint remake of the 1955 Montreal Canadiens jersey. The only difference really being the string down the front. And honestly, they haven't changed their design in a very long time. And they're a team with a lot of tradition. They're a team that went on a Stanley Cup final run last year. And so expectations, I think, are going to be kind of all over the place. I think there are some Montreal fans who are expecting, yep, we showed what we could do. It's right back to the playoffs this year. But there are some subtractions from this team that it's going to be tough for them to overcome. So, if we look at their special teams numbers this past season, they were kind of mediocre. 19.2% of the power play, 17th. Penalty kill, 78.5%, which is 23rd. And there's been much made about their special teams and attempts to fix it and changes at assistant coaches and all this. I get it. But their goals for and goals against, mediocre there. 158 goals for, which was 17th. 165 goals against, which was 18th. And they backed into the playoffs. There was good reason for people to look at that playoff setup and say, you know what, Toronto's going to take them out. And almost did, but then Toronto did as the Leafs tend to do in the first round, and they weren't able to close it out. So Montreal's team this year, it's kind of, I think the expectations are going to be higher than what the team necessarily can deliver. Let's take a look at their draft picks, though. We'll get to that. 2015, they drafted Joelson in the first round, 26th overall. 2016, they drafted Sergachev at 9th. They traded him for Drouin. Drouin should be back and playing to start the season. We'll see how he is. But losing Sergachev in that deal is still hurting them. Mete was drafted 100th overall. 2017, they drafted Paling at 25th. Cale Fleury at 87th. And Caden Primo at 199th. So Primo, who may very well be the heir apparent to Carey Price at some stage, not too bad snagging him at 199th overall. 2018, they drafted Kotkaniemi at 3rd. Romanov drafted 38th. Yolonen drafted 35th. So, good drafting that year. I think Romanov has a lot more to give. Kotkaniemi needs to find that next gear and be able to stay in that next gear and play that way going forward more regularly than he has thus far. 2019, of course, they drafted Caulfield 15th. What else is there to say? Cole Caulfield should be their leading goal scorer this year. And Norlinder at 64th. We'll see how much he posts or pushes towards a job and how soon. 2020, they went with Caden Gooley. They went with Luke Tuck as they decided, well, we might as well draft guys who have brothers in the NHL. That sounds good. So, yeah, overall drafting, not bad for Montreal. And, again, Primo, kind of a steal. Couple of good second-rounders in there. So who's left the team? Tomas Tatar. No surprise, Tatar's gone. And there was much made about Tatar and his exit. But he did not have a good year. He really did not have a good year. And so it's understandable that Montreal moved on, and so did he. He can bounce back this year with New Jersey, but it's likely for the best for both team and player that he's been moved on from. But Philippe Danault, it's going to hurt. That loss is absolutely going to hurt Montreal in faceoffs. It's going to hurt them defensively. It's just going to hurt their all-around game. And this is a team that already gives up too many 2-on-1s. And if they lose a face-off, the odds of the puck going in their net, we saw in the playoffs, it can go in pretty quickly after they lose a face-off. Perry is also gone. He's gone to Tampa. Weber, of course, is on LTIR, is supposed to miss the entire season. Eric Stahl is left. Merrill's gone. Gustafson's gone. So there's some depth issues we may see this year. But they're new faces. They added Paquette. They added Hoffman. Hoffman is here for the power play. Hoffman is here to take that power play and bring it into the top 10. Savard, good defensive defenseman. They're going to count on him to replace some of what was lost with the Weber being on the shelf. He's not going to be able to do everything Weber does, though. Matthew Perreault was added, as well as Weidman comes back over from the KHL and may find himself in the lineup for Montreal this year. We'll see how it goes with their blue line and with injuries. Their last 3 seasons tell a bit of a story here, too. So they were 44, 30, and 8, 4th in the Atlantic in 2018-2019. They missed the playoffs because they're in the East. they were in the West, they would have made the playoffs that year. Habs fans were unhappy with that setup. 2019-2020, they finished 31-31-9. They were fifth in the Atlantic. Would not have made the playoffs if not for the expanded playoffs. Expanded playoffs, they knocked out Pittsburgh, and then they lost in what was technically the first round against Philadelphia. 2020-2021, they were 24-21-11, fourth in the North Division, and then, of course, they made that run to the finals where they lose to Tampa Bay. Now, they destroyed Vancouver most of the times they played them. They end up 6-0-3 against Vancouver, which means other than against Vancouver, they were 18-21-8. This was a team that was not winning a lot of games, and they had losing streaks going into the playoffs. They had issues with this team all the way through, and then it just clicked in the playoffs. So my question mark with Montreal is you've lost Eno, you've lost Weber, that veteran leadership there. This was a team that was a playoff team in the North, which everybody agreed before the playoffs. Montreal, they only won 24 to 56 games. They wouldn't have made the playoffs in any other division. Then they go all the way to the final, and the conversation changed to, hey, maybe the North was better than we thought. One doesn't necessarily mean the other is wrong, but I will say this, the North I thought was better than people gave it credit for. But I do wonder about Montreal's ability to have an encore from what we saw in the playoffs. So their forward group, Toffoli, can he follow up on the season that he had? Absolutely fantastic year. Again, those 9 games against Vancouver, it feels like kind of skewed some of the numbers, including Toffoli's goal numbers. Suzuki, I love Suzuki's game. I love Cole Caulfield too. The two of them together, there's really good chemistry. If Toffoli gets chemistry with the two of them, that could be a lethal first line. Then you've got Hoffman, Kotkaniemi, Gallagher. Kotkaniemi has to find that next gear, as I said, in the regular season. Can't be in a situation where the coach can go, well, I'll just scratch Kotkaniemi then, because you want to make sure that that's not an option. So Hoffman needs to get off to a good start, I think, because, again, they need some goals. Gallagher needs to bounce back from what was offensively a down year for him. Gallagher is still productive if he's not getting goals and points. There's still things he does on the ice that help the team out, but they definitely need those goals and assists from him. Then you get into the rest of the lineup. You've got Drouin, Evans, Anderson. Josh Anderson had a very good first year in Montreal. Lehkonen, Paquette, Armia. Armia is one of my favorite forwards. Definitely in Montreal, one of my favorite forwards in the Atlantic. I think one of the more underrated forwards in the league. Byron, of course, is injured to start the season, so we'll see how things go without him, but there's offensive depth there. Perreault has been added, some good depth there. He should be in the everyday lineup. I do wonder when we come out of training camp whether or not some of these players may have been waived or traded or what's going to happen. Belzile, Dia, Ylonen, Dauphin, Paling, Vedemo. Remember when Paling was going to be the big star, and it really hasn't happened yet. So we'll see whether or not Paling can get himself back into the conversation this year too. I do like Evans, but I do wonder if there's going to be enough goals overall from this roster in an Atlantic division that's kind of sort of stacked. So the defense, this is where there may be some question marks too. Not with Edmondson. Definitely not with Petrie. But then you get beneath that. Sherratt had an up and down season, depending on the game shift. I like Sherratt's game. There are some who don't. Savard, again, he's got that cup ring from Tampa. Now he's come to Montreal. We'll see what he can do for them. Romanov and Kulak. I honestly think Romanov needs a better chance than he had in the playoffs last year. I really like Romanov's game. I think he does a little bit of everything, and I think there's more offense there than we've seen so far. Weidman, Ouellette, Belpedio, Leskinen. A lot of depth on that blue line. I do wonder, though, without Weber, whether it will be as effective. And again, they can't be giving up 2-on-1s, 3-on-2s. They can't be caught out of position when the team loses a face-off. Set plays shouldn't score as often against Montreal as we saw in the playoffs. Mainly with Vegas, but we saw another series as well where those set plays could hurt them. Their goaltending is solid. Price, Allen, and of course Primo's the number 3 in the minors. It was fantastic that they were able to keep Price and Allen, that they didn't lose one or the other to Seattle. And yet, Price, he's older, and his numbers during the regular season, this is again where that, it depends how you look at it, right? Price's numbers down in the regular season, I think, come down to how many odd man rushes the blue line has been giving up. people will look at his numbers being down in terms of goal, his save percentage, and say, well, he's not as good. He's not very good. He's not an elite level goaltender. And that debate may very well not change this year. We may once again see 2-on-1s, 3-on-2s. I hope not. I genuinely hope not. Because as much as people want to say, oh, Shannon just hates Montreal, the league is better off when Montreal's a better team. Just in general, the National Hockey League is better off when Montreal is a strong threat as a team. It is much more fun to see them out on the ice and see them playing when they're a good team than when they're not. Their prospect group, Luke Tuck is an interesting one. We'll see what kind of goal scoring he brings if/when he gets to that lineup. Caden Gooley, first-round draft pick on the blue line, may get slotted in there next season. Jacob Olofsson and Matthias Norlinder. Norlinder, again, I could have put on the depth chart, and I thought, nah, we'll put him under the prospects list. And we'll see how things go for him. Montreal's going to be... It's always divisive when I talk about Montreal. So the cup odds right now are 25-1. Now, I did Minnesota this morning. Minnesota's at 22-1. So that tells you that people are looking at Montreal and saying, it was a great run. We don't think they're going to win a Stanley Cup this year. So, and that's an understandable feeling to have. Their last Stanley Cup was 1993. My prediction has them 5th in the Atlantic. I just feel like with Boston, Tampa, Florida, and Toronto, those 4 teams I still slot ahead of Montreal during the regular season. Because Tampa would have finished ahead of Montreal in the regular season last year. Boston would have, Florida would have, and Toronto did. So all I'm saying in having them 5th in the Atlantic is that the teams that finished ahead of them last year, to me, I don't think Montreal's necessarily got a better roster right now than what they had when they went to the Stanley Cup final. And if it's as good, then during the regular season, they're likely still beneath those other teams. So to me, 5th in the Atlantic works. And it'll be written off as, well, this is just pure hate. It's not, but okay. But yeah, so we'll see how things go. And yes, there's the opportunity that maybe Boston falls off. Maybe Toronto completely falls off the map. But I don't see it, not yet. But their schedule, it is a tough schedule for Montreal out of the gate. They play 10 games in October, which is a lot. They're starting with playing in Toronto on the 13th. I'm surprised they have a game against Toronto that's not on a Saturday. It feels like every Montreal-Toronto matchup is on a Saturday for Hockey Night in Canada reasons because they equal ratings. The next night they're in Buffalo. So there's a possibility that they could win both of those games on the road and get off to a good start. Then they're at home against the Rangers 2 days later. Then they're at home against San Jose on the 19th. The 21st, they're at home against Carolina. And they're at home against Detroit on the 23rd. All 4 of those games, outside of Carolina, winnable. We could say winnable on that, right? So it's the possibility there that they have a good start. And then they go out on the road, they go to the West Coast. Starting with Seattle on the 26th, San Jose on the 28th, and then they have another back-to-back, their 2nd of October, LA on the 30th, Anaheim on the 31st. So they go through California and play all 3 over a 4-day period. It's a tough schedule. It's a tough schedule out of the gate for Montreal, and it'll test them. But Anaheim, winnable. LA, sure. San Jose, yep. Seattle, should be. Detroit, yep. So this is absolutely a schedule that could help Montreal get off to a good start. And what have I said in other previews? Getting off to a good start can be the key to having a really good season. So we'll see. I honestly think that as long as Caulfield hits that next level, he could very well be your Calder winner this year, right? He had all that experience in the playoffs. He only played, 10 games during the regular season? He could very well be the Calder winner this year. And if Hoffman rediscovers his scoring touch, if Toffoli shows it wasn't just a one-year wonder thing and he really is a 35/40 goal scorer potentially, this could be a good year for Montreal. And we'll see how things turn out. So there you go. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below as always. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe if you're browsing your way through. You just happened upon this video. Thank you guys so much for watching, for all your support. I will talk to you again soon.